Confectioner's custard, or crème pâtissière, has many uses. I like it as a base for fruit tarts, and it's also a main constituent for one of my favourite tarts, the tarte à la crème, a very simple tart with a leavened pastry, pate levee. To make a pint of crème pâtissière, take 18 fluid ounces of milk and pour this into a heavy bottom saucepan and bring to the boil. Take a vanilla pod and split it lengthways. Here you can see the vanilla seeds inside. And place this into the hot milk and very gently simmer for around 5 minutes before removing from the heat and removing the vanilla pod. In the meantime, take 6 egg yolks, 4 ounces of caster sugar and cream together. Then whisk in 1 ounce of plain flour and 3/4 of an ounce of corn flour. Take around 100 ml, or 3.5 fluid ounces, of the hot milk and pour this into the egg and sugar and flour mix and whisk until well blended. Then put back on the heat and bring back to the boil, whisking until smooth. Gradually adding the remaining milk as you whisk and boil for 1 minute, whisking all the while. After a minute, the custard should have thickened nicely, and this can be transferred to a bowl to be left to cool until you need it. To prevent a skin from forming as it cools, you can sprinkle a little bit of caster sugar on top. As I said before, one of my favourite uses of this custard is to make a tarte à la crème. To make this tart, we need to make our leavened pastry, for which we need 250 grams of plain flour and 80 grams of lukewarm milk. Make a well in the flour and add the lukewarm milk. Take 15 grams of yeast and crumble this into the mix. Then add 1 egg, weighing around 50 grams, 25 grams of caster sugar and 5 grams of salt. Then mix to obtain a supple and smooth dough, which will now leave for 10 minutes to rest, before incorporating 100 grams of softened butter, which will knead in energetically until the dough detaches nicely from the work surface when it is not quite so sticky. We then leave this dough to rest at room temperature for about an hour for the dough to increase in volume. We'll then leave it in the fridge until the dough has hardened a little. Once the dough has firmed up in the fridge, we can roll it out into a disc about 1 inch larger than the tin we're going to line, so that it forms a lip to the tart to hold in the filling. Fill the tart with the crème pâtissière and top with strips of the pastry to form a lattice work. Then glaze with a beaten egg yolk and leave to rest for an hour before baking in the oven at 180 degrees C for 10 minutes before dropping the temperature to 150 degrees C for a further 20 minutes. Then the tart is done and can be left to cool. A variation could be to drop prunes into the custard before baking for a tarte aux pruneaux.